Coming up in this edition of Southern Newsweek, persistent rain causes flooding in Dunedin, snow blankets the central Otago Mountains, and a Dunedin man builds a replica of an iconic spacecraft. Kia ora, good evening, I'm Melissa Barton. Heavy persistent rain throughout last weekend caused extensive surface flooding and closed several roads around Dunedin and Mosgiel. About 50 millimetres of rain fell on the Sunday in Dunedin, but began to ease by evening as a heavy rain warning was lifted.
A weekend of heavy rain tested storm water drains around Dunedin. Late last night, Emergency Management Otago Director Chris Hawker said they were confident the flooding was going to dissipate. By mid-morning, he was proven right. However, this morning, the Dunedin City Council says several roads are still closed around the city due to flooding or unsafe conditions. Highcliffe Road on the Otago Peninsula was closed overnight between Sandymount and Seaton Roads due to concerns about a potential landslip near the Seven Sisters. Emergency services also responded around 10:30 p.m. last night to reports a tree had fallen on Portobello Road near Weller Street. Several roads around Mosgiel were also blocked where fords had become impassable. Harold Baser, The South Today.
And further news about flooding from last weekend's rain. One of those affected was McAndrew Bay School. The South Today went and looked at the flooding.
While the rain this weekend didn't seem to be very heavy, it was steady enough to cause flooding, especially where culverts and gratings were blocked by autumn leaves. Some of the places affected badly by flooding and mud were the school and play centre at Dunedin's McAndrew Bay. Staff were still bailing out flooded areas yesterday, and exterior weatherboards will need to be taken off for drying and cleaning off the mud. McAndrew Bay School Principal Bernadette Newlands says the damage is a major problem for them.
It'll all have to be dried out, carpets replaced. But the sad thing is all the equipment. This is our music room and our sports shed, so we lose a lot of music equipment or sports equipment, gym mats and things that will be gone again, and things like our musical amp and our new vacuum cleaner that was replaced after the last flood. That'll be gone again. So it's just that cycle of dealing with the flooding and the impact of it, and the process of getting it sorted again. It's quite demoralising.
It's not the first time that a blocked culvert has caused problems for the school.
Since 2015, when we had the experience of the culvert across the road flooding and a lot of debris, water and silt coming through the play centre and the school. So we're always nervous when there's steady rain.
Despite the challenges, McAndrew Bay School has been able to stay open since the flooding. Rudy Adrian, The South Today.
And further afield in central, heavy snowfalls blanketed the Southern Lakes ski fields over last weekend. Cardrona Alpine Resort in Wanaka received more than 50 centimetres of snowfall, while Queenstown's Remarkables and Coronet ski fields had up to 40 centimetres of snow.
Coronet Peak ski area manager Nigel Kerr enjoys the snow up Coronet Peak with local dogs Oscar and Mushroom. Snow fell to between 700 metres and 800 metres on Saturday. Met Service says temperatures are set to rise over the next few days and more snow is unlikely. The occasional dumping of snow is not unusual for this time of year. The Remarkables will open to the public in 6 weeks, Coronet Peak and Cardrona a week later. Mina Amso, The South Today.
Work on an almost full-size replica of an iconic 1970s spacecraft is nearing completion in Dunedin. The construction of a replica fighter from the science fiction TV show Battlestar Galactica is a result of one man's determination. The South Today went for a look.
Almost ready for liftoff, this colonial Viper from the TV series Battlestar Galactica is a very accurate replica created out of discarded household items plus pieces of wood at Dunedin's Cargill Enterprises. The spacefighter is a labour of love for science fiction enthusiast Warren Goodwin, and Cargo Enterprises Chief Executive Officer Jeff Kemp says they're pleased with the skills developed from the project.
Oh, he's incredibly talented. We promoted the work that Warren's put into this plane. So he's built quite a lot of it in work's time and the like. But we really like to see him develop the skills, and there's a potential there for Warren to get a job outside of Cargo Enterprise. We'd love to get a call from Weta Workshops, but he's got some amazing skills with building and developing, designing, incredible tenacity, the way he sticks with the projects and it takes them to fruition. It's really amazing.
Goodwin has spent much of his life building science fiction replicas and costumes, but at just under 9 metres in length, this is one of his biggest projects.
Well, he certainly has a real passion for galaxy defenders, the likes of the Star Wars type props and characters and the like. So they tend to be the ones that he gravitates towards. But occasionally he builds something that's completely of his own imagination.
William Goodwin says he hopes the Colonial Viper will debut at the South Dunedin Street Festival in November.
I'm hoping to have it at the South Dunedin Street Festival, where I usually wear some of my costumes every year at that event.
The spacecraft can be compacted down like an accordion for easy storage, and when it is on public display, the ship is designed for children to be able to climb on board and fly to the stars. Rudy Adrian, The South Today.
Still to come on Southern Newsweek. Potato chips become crisper than usual in a fire, and a display of Lego attracts thousands. Welcome back. Land Rover Owners Club members revelled in gloriously wet conditions at the annual Mud Plug Rally at Waitati. One of the event organisers, Russell Quinn, said Saturday's conditions were the wettest and muddiest he could recall in the 20 years he had been involved with the Land Rover Owners Club Otago Rally.
One onlooker termed the slippery mud bath conditions pig's heaven at the Land Rover Owners Club Otago Mud Plug Rally. The event took place in very wet conditions on Saturday at Cedar Creek near Waitati, just north of Dunedin. 15 obstacles were initially planned, but this was cut to 10 as a safety precaution due to the conditions, which made it hard going for some to even reach some of the planned obstacles. The prospect of wet weather meant only 18 four-wheel drive vehicles took part, down from 30 last year. And in the tough conditions, only 6 contestants survived to complete the whole event. Others retiring with a range of problems, including electrical issues. Daryl Baser, The South Today.
A potato chip storage facility in Dunedin caught fire on Tuesday morning. Fire crews were able to prevent the entire building being burnt to a crisp.
4 emergency appliances plus a truck ladder attended a fire at the Bluebird potato chip storage buildings in Dunedin's Kaikarai Valley this morning. The blaze was initially attended just before 8 a.m, with additional trucks arriving some 10 minutes later. Firefighters said that while the blaze was small, thick pungent smoke was creating problems for the crews. Upon being asked what flavour of potato chips were ablaze, a senior fire officer replied, "Well, it's barbecue now." The fire was quickly brought under control and thought to have resulted from an electrical fault. Rudy Adrian, The South Today.
Dunedin's Fortune Theatre has closed with the loss of 8 full-time and 4 part-time jobs. An email was sent to media from the Fortune Theatre's board chairperson Hayley Van Leeuwen on Tuesday morning, shortly after staff were told.
The final curtain has come down on Dunedin's Fortune Theatre after more than 4 decades. The Fortune Theatre Trust announced the closure today after trustees agreed it cannot continue to run under its current business model and premises. Fortune Board of Trustees Chair Hayley Van Leeuwen says the board has been through an exhaustive process of reviews and has decided it has to close the theatre company because it's no longer financially viable.
We've just come to a point where we're no longer financially viable, and that's made our decision. Whilst it's very hard, we've had to look at it from a business sense, and we just don't have the finances available to continue.
Theatre employees were informed at 9 a.m. this morning that the theatre company will cease operations as of today, and no further shows will be performed at the venue. She says the board has to go through the contracts for up-and-coming shows, but both Van Leeuwen and fellow trustee Tom Conroy agree the staff must come first.
So now it's a process of going through the contracts and understanding the dollars and cents behind those, and then we'll have a full picture in the coming weeks.
Top priority is looking after the staff.
Yeah,
that's our number one first, and then we'll look at the other issues after that.
The historic venue is leased from the Dunedin City Council, who Van Leeuwen says have been very helpful during this process. And although the Fortune Theatre is dead as it stands, she believes the DCC can be instrumental in the future of live theatre in Dunedin.
As to the future for professional theatre in Dunedin, we're very confident that the council have got some good strategies in place, and we know that there is an awful lot of support from major funders around the country and also individual arts organisations to create something really fresh and contemporary.
Dunedin's Fortune Theatre has been operating as a professional theatre for 44 years, and until today had 8 full-time and 4 part-time staff. Daryl Baser, The South Today.
Businesses all around Dunedin are commissioning street art to be painted on their exterior walls. One of the latest additions of colour to the city is the exterior of Wood Solutions in Orari Street. The South Today went for a look.
The staff of Wood Solutions in Dunedin's Orari Street are very happy with the way artist Diao Owen has transformed an exterior wall of their building. Owen is happy to have been commissioned to paint the mural.
Found out about Wood Solutions and kind of their background, and knew they were a strong Otago-based company. My roots are, my family is from Otago Peninsula, you know, that was kind of the creation of our family, so it's kind of good to be in Otago and representing the colours and putting a bit of splash on the street, you know.
The native bird, the tui, is somewhat of an icon in Owen's art at the moment.
Tui is something I've been painting for about 4 years now, but really prolifically studying over the last 6 months or so, and it's pretty much my main subject matter right now is the tui. I mean, I've got them at home chirping away every day, so I see them from my studio and hear them from my studio, so it's kind of inspirational to paint them, and I think they're a very iconic New Zealand bird.
He is dividing his time between Southland and California and is developing his art as smaller, more easily saleable canvases.
In this last year, I've been really refining my art more into the fine art kind of canvas panels and stuff, and just kind of bringing it right back to the doing the big stuff, but kind of refining it back into a smaller scale and sellable.
Wood Solutions found their artist by contacting the Dunedin Street Art Trust. Rudy Adrian, The South Today.
The Southland Brick Show celebrated its 5th anniversary last weekend with its biggest show to date. Over 4,000 people attended Southland's biggest Lego display to see the creations of the Southern Lego Users Group. Sharon Rees has more.
Star Wars and Doctor Who were recurring themes at this year's Southland Brick Show, but with the event growing every year, the Lego Users Group ensured there was something for everyone.
Last year we had 42 tables in this room and our play area in this room as well. This year there's 58 tables filled with exhibits, and the play area had to move to a separate room. So yeah, a lot bigger than what we'd had previously. It is our 5th anniversary of doing Lego shows, so we're quite pleased to make sure that 5th anniversary was pretty special.
Displays included intricate models of famous buildings, models with technical functions, and recreations of scenes from popular movies and television shows. Evans said the Lego Users Group offers entire families an opportunity to spend time together while raising funds for the community.
It's really cool to see the entire family doing something that's really good. Like we're a charity, we raise money for the community, so that's a whole family working for something outside of themselves, and it's not really that common. Like, you know, if dad's involved in the sport, generally it's dad involved in the sport. Mum's got a hobby, it's mum's hobby. This is a hobby the whole family can enjoy together.
Last year, the group raised over $10,000 for charities in Southland, and organisers said they expect roughly the same from this year's event. Sharon Rees, The South Today.
Still to come on Southern Newsweek, a Dunedin bookshop is looking forward to GST on overseas online shopping, and an Invercargill artist knits up some lifelike skeletons. Thanks for staying with us. The government announced this week that overseas retailers will be required to add 15% GST to items purchased by online buyers from New Zealand. This is good news for embattered local retailers such as Dunedin's University Bookshop. The South Today found out more.
From October next year, local shops such as the University Bookshop will have less of a struggle in competing with overseas online retailers, thanks to a new legislation to make online shops collect the 15% owing on each sale. University Bookshop manager Philippa Duffy says the new tax on overseas retailers is one she's been campaigning for a long time.
We've been campaigning as a bookshop and as a wider industry for several years now for a much fairer playing field for bookshops like ourselves and other independent retailers against large offshore and online retailers. So it's fantastic news for us. We're really thrilled.
From October next year, it is hoped that around 3/4 of online retailers will be made to pay GST on New Zealand purchases.
What this law does is it means that it's going to be an equal playing field across, because the anticipation is that 75% of offshore online retail turnover is going to be captured in this legislation.
Duffy feels the tax regime will bring about a positive change for New Zealand.
What this will allow us to do is not have the unfair 15% disadvantage for those who have been shopping online and overseas, and that if we're able to make ourselves even more price competitive as well as do all of those other important retail things well, then yes, I'm sure it's going to make us much more successful, and more than just us though, bring that vibrancy back to the main streets in regional New Zealand and in other cities and towns where it's the main street retailer who's been competing against offshore suppliers, and that also will add vibrancy to their towns and employ more local people, so that's got to be good as well.
The government is hoping the GST on overseas purchases will bring in about $57 million within the first year. Rudy Adrian, The South Today.
The Invercargill City Council has received a record number of submissions on its long-term plan consultation document. Over 400 submissions were made, with 78 submitters requesting to speak at the council hearings. Sharon Rees reports.
Invercargill residents are ensuring their voice is heard regarding some key aspects of the City Council's long-term plan. 443 submissions were made, with the fate of Anderson House and the closure of the Southern Museum and Art Gallery being driving factors for the spike in submissions from previous years.
There's been a lot of submissions about the proposed new arts centre, so Arts and Creativity Invercargill, had a lot of people submitting on that. On that same vein, they were also submitting about the Anderson House upgrades. We also had, as you can imagine, with the closure of the museum, we've had a lot of submissions regarding the museum.
Short said public opinion on some of the projects was overwhelmingly one-sided, but there's one issue that has divided the Invercargill public in two.
A huge amount of support for the tuatara and kakapo, which is really, really good to see. And I guess the third thing was the stadium funding. And that's really divided our community because everyone agrees that the stadium's a great asset, but not everybody agrees that ratepayers should have to fund it. So we've had submissions both for and against, and to be honest, that's probably one of the closest 50-50 splits that I've ever seen.
An open meeting will be held on the 15th of May, in which councillors will debate the suggestions and concerns of submitters and begin the decision-making process. The long-term plan will be adopted on the 1st of July. Sharon Rees, The South Today.
A fundraising breakfast was held in Rangiora this week, with former New Zealand basketball player Jane McMeekin as guest speaker. The event was arranged by the Big Brothers Big Sisters organisation of North Canterbury.
Plenty of people were happy to stump up the $40 to have breakfast at the Rangiora Baptist Church this morning with Youth Court Judge and former New Zealand basketball representative Jane McMeekin as guest speaker. A former sports player herself, Judge McMeekin is concerned that sports can be unaffordable for young people.
I know it was a long time ago that I was growing up, but when I was growing up, sport was easy. It didn't cost a whole lot of money to play. I hear stories now about primary schools where you're wanting to play sport and you've got to pay $100 deposit to get your netball uniform or pay money to be playing sport at a really young level. So that's an avenue that's not available now for lots of young people, that, for want of a better word, mentoring that they get from really good people who are their sports coaches, because sport is sadly not available for a lot of young people these days if their parents don't have a whole lot of money. And again, that's something we see in Youth Court.
Put together by the Big Brother Big Sister organisation of North Canterbury, the organisers said they were pleased with the turnout.
Today we were just so grateful for the amount of community support we received. Really, this is a community that looks after its own in terms of sponsorship and opening new matches all the time and supporting us to stay afloat as we're a not-for-profit agency.
340. Including a charity auction, this was the 7th annual fundraising breakfast and drew the biggest crowd yet. Rudy Adrian, The South Today.
A new exhibition in Invercargill is challenging people to consider their place in the world's catastrophic future. Artist Michelle Bevors has employed knitting to tell the story of a bleak future that she says humans are creating for themselves.
The Invercargill Public Art Gallery looks more akin to a museum of natural history with its latest exhibition. While it looks as if Michelle Bevors' anatomy lessons is made of the skeletal remains of animals, closer inspection shows a unique form of sculpture.
The exhibition has been 13 years in the making. I knit at night. All of the anatomy that you see is knitted. The horse, which is the first animal that I made, took 2 years. The snake took 6 months. Knitting at night because I work during the day.
She said the exhibition focuses on the theory behind the 6th extinction, that the Earth is in the midst of a man-made extinction.
It's kind of common knowledge now that we're headed for a crisis in terms of animal extinction rates, and the work is primarily concerned with grief at the 6th extinction, the climate change and deforestation and all of the problems that we have due to our own making.
Bevors held a workshop yesterday giving the public a lesson in pattern making and complicated stitches. She said she hoped the exhibition would get people thinking about their own role in the world's future.
For people to think about their relationship with animals and their relationship with each other. I think that, the 6th extinction kind of forces us to realise that we as human beings are part of the environment.
Anatomy lessons will be on display at the Invercargill Public Art Gallery until May 19. Sharon Rees, The South Today.
That's all from our news team this week. You can go online and check us out on Facebook, or you can keep up with Southern News via our website, YouTube and channel 39.co.nz. I'm Melissa Barton and thanks for watching.
supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.